All right, y'all, we're live tonight. Welcome to our Tuesday night weekly edition of the All In Team Live Hangout. We're bringing you the value on business, life, and anything else we think is important that we've experienced for you, our viewers. We also take your questions, so get ready. But I have with me tonight Dr. Steve, I have the lovely Simon, and the fabulous Jorge. I am Cheryl Samet. And tonight, we are asking our viewers the question, are you wasting your time or are you working on income-producing activities in your business? Now, income-producing activities and activities that are worthy of your time can also be result-producing activities. We'll touch on those as well. But for now, I'd like to throw it over to Simon to get his perspective on what activities are result-producing activities.
Well, I appreciate that, Cheryl. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Absolutely. Welcome back.
Well, it's a kind of a depends subject. But let's talk about when you have a business, a business of any kind, you have no business being in business until you have people coming in to buy your products or services, right? True or true? So if you think backwards, before you have people coming in, let's say you have a store that sells I don't know, pens, okay? Before you can sell a pen, you have to have someone coming in the door and wants to buy a pen. So how do you find these people to come through the door to buy those pens? Well, in my case, the way I think about it, it's all about having traffic coming in by getting leads. And that could be through advertising, it could be through Facebook, it could be through word of mouth. But it's all about bringing traffic into your business, if it's online or offline. So that's my short answer to, excuse me, my short answer is an income-producing activity produces leads to your business. What does anyone else think?
Well, I mean, I agree with that. And Simon, I think when you said it depends, I think that's 100% right, because it really depends on the business that the person is marketing. There's a lot of home-based and network marketing companies, and I think that's kind of the people that we're talking to tonight is, the activities that you need to be taking to produce a result. So part of that is like, well, what is the result that you're looking to achieve? We're talking about largely income-producing activities, and I think if you were going to put that in a nutshell, we would say it's really just selling and recruiting, right? Those are the two things that are really going to put immediate money in your pocket. Those are the immediate income-producing activities, but there's plenty of result-producing activities, like you said, Simon, where you can generate traffic to your website or your blog or your offer, capture some leads. Those are all results, right? So it really depends on the result that you're after. So I think for the nutshell answer, I'll give you my short answer also. I think, in my perspective, income-producing activities are really selling and recruiting. That's where I would start with anyway.
So sitting and watching cat videos on Facebook, would that be a result-producing activity?
If someone's paying you to do it, yeah, but otherwise probably not.
Yeah, there's a difference about when we talk about result producing activities, is that it's not about doing a lot during the day. So you could have a busy day, but it's not really being productive. So yeah, I'm doing a lot. I'm looking at the cat videos at Facebook. I'm putting the status here about, hey, I went and took a picture of my food and at the restaurant, etc., etc. It will take all the time of the day of your work. But again, is it really being productive? Are you really being doing it smart, in a smart fashion? So that's the question you have to ask yourself at the beginning. I mean, is this really going to contribute to where my goals are, where I'm heading to, where my vision is? Mm-hmm. That's the question you must ask yourself. And I like your example of the cat, the grumpy cat videos or whatever they are, that they just, yeah, I've seen them once, seen them all.
And sometimes they're easy to do, isn't it? And I guess I'll expand a little bit because I mean I'm as guilty as the next person. I'll be the first to admit is that sometimes if you're in, I've done network marketing. I forget how many companies I've been with, and probably the people on this call have been in a lot too. So easy I mean, this phone weighs a ton, right? And it's so much easier to maybe organize your list, to go through your list and start to organize them and maybe categorize them and look at some products and training material when you know that you should be picking up the phone and dialing those people. And and sometimes it's easy to do something, but as Jim Rohn says, it's also easy not to do something. And if you dread picking up the phone, the easiest way to get over doing that is to just pick up the phone and make some phone calls. After the first one or two, I mean, I've had fear of phone as well. Pick up the phone, make a phone call. That was the hardest one, and then it gets easier after that. And then you're not watching cat videos or you're not filing your pencils and sorting your list out. So my 2 cents there.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the aspect of phone calls and networking and contacting people to as a result producing activity, because in network marketing and internet marketing you do need to establish relationships and grow your network, because you never know where your next nugget is going to come from, where your next piece of knowledge that you have is going to enlighten someone's day or enlighten someone's business and really just cause them a major shift. But when you talked about you need to pick up the phone, you need to make, let's say, like 10 calls in one day. Well, if you're sitting there watching cat videos instead of picking up the phone, clearly you're making 0 phone calls and you're making 0 connections that day. And I had a coaching client one time who said, oh, I can't get to the 10 calls per day. I know I need to make 10 calls per day, but I'm really struggling at sitting down and doing that. And my answer to her was, make 1 phone call. Take that first step. Check off 1 phone call on with your to-do list where you have your little boxes. Check off that you did that one activity to show that you made a result. And you're in that to me, and I actually employ that in when I'm making my connections and doing my activities. If I know I need to get to doing 10 of something or a specific quantity of doing something, I'll start with okay, I've done 1. All right, especially if it's something that I don't want to do or I'm scared to do. It's like I do 1 and I know that I've accomplished that, and hey, that wasn't so bad. Okay, I'll do 2. Hey, that wasn't so bad either, and I work my way up to 10. So I guess that's sort of a technique or a method to get a person over a hump of avoiding doing a result producing or an income producing activity.
All right, well, it's always about taking the first step, right? Doing the first one, taking the first step, and it gets easier from there, like everything else. But I wanna kind of talk about something that you just said and something Simon said also, and it sort of encapsulates the theme of tonight's call. And we're using the words busy and we're using the words activity, but busy is not the same as productive. And if you guys that are watching this hangout, you need to understand that, because when you're putting your list of names together, like these are the people that I'm going to call today, or when you're getting ready to get ready to do something, and look, we can all fill up a day with quote-unquote busy work, but it doesn't produce a result. And like you said, Cheryl, activities or activity and productivity are also 2 separate things. Making the call is an activity, but if you book an appointment or you make a sale, that's getting a result. So it's not just, oh, I dialed the number and they didn't answer. That's you took an action, okay, but you didn't get a result. So I don't count that, right? So it's like the salesman that goes to a dozen offices and doesn't sell anything. He was very active, he was very busy, but he wasn't terribly productive. So that's kind of the theme that we're talking to you guys about tonight. Also, is you want to focus your energy, especially if you have limited time. Most people who are working in the home-based business industry, the network marketing or MLM business, have a job, have a life, probably have a family, right? So they don't have 10 hours a day to build their business. They might have an hour. So in that hour, you need to focus on what is going to produce you results the fastest, right? If it's making phone calls, make those phone calls. If it's doing Facebook marketing, whatever it is, selling, recruiting, whatever you need to do, That's where you should be focusing your time and energy. If you have a long list of things to do, order them in what's going to produce a result for you the fastest. Use your time the most effectively and efficiently, and decide what's going to keep you busy and what's going to make you productive. So I just wanted to kind of distinguish the difference between those two words because, like you said, Cheryl, we can all be quote-unquote busy all day long, whether it's watching catch videos or checking emails or, hey, did somebody like my latest Facebook post? You can stay busy doing all that stuff, but in the end, it doesn't produce a result. And that's what we're trying to drive home to you guys tonight is you want to focus on the result or income-producing activities.
One thing important is, and I relate to something that Simon said earlier, that he was guilty. And I think we all are guilty at a certain point that we deviate from ourselves from the income-producing activities and we go to getting busy by itself. And sometimes there's a certain sense of sabotage that we do because we're scared, we have fear to doing these things. One thing that has worked for me is, and if I have limited time. I have a job in the day, then I have my business in the evenings, and that's where I dedicate my time. So as Steve said, I have limited time. So it's very important for you to have your micro targets. Okay, what am I going to do? How many calls I'm going to make? How many people I'm going to contact? How I'm going to start building my relationships with other people. So setting those micro targets from the start will help you guide yourself. And hey, it doesn't have to be 10 at the first start. But like Cheryl said, 1, maybe 2. You know what? Next time I'm gonna hit it to 3. So you go step by step and move on.
But something that came up, and for me, I can relate probably to this more than others. And when I was in the corporate world, and I think, and I know Cheryl, you're in this too, and Jorge, probably yourself as well, is that when you have a job, you have a boss to answer to, and you know when you come in the morning, you have a meeting from 9 until 10, and then you have a staff meeting at 1 until 5, and lasts 4 hours. But you know that you have to show up at that particular time because that's what you're being paid to do. And you can choose not to go to that meeting at 1 o'clock, the staff meeting, and you do that for so long you get fired. But then when you leave that corporate, I guess, in that structured environment, as much as you hate it, well, some of us like the jobs, but you come home and then there's no structure to it. You say, well, I think I'll make some phone calls tonight. Well, about 7 o'clock, right? And there's 2 things here I'll bring up that I've heard. In fact, I've heard these from everyone I've heard this to have gone on to make, in network marketing, at least 6 figures a year, very, very quickly. There's 2 things here I'll share with you. First, what they did, they got their calendar out. Excuse me. They got their calendar out and they marked up on the calendar, tonight I'm working from 7 until 8 and all I'm doing is making phone calls. And the second thing they did is they had, you can use your phone, or what I have here is a timer. And it just counts down from anywhere from 99 minutes on down, and set that timer to, say, 60 minutes. So you know that you're working from 7 to 8 and all you're doing is making phone calls with your phone. And so what they do is they shut everything else down, they shut off the Facebook and all these alerts, and all they do is they have the list and a phone and a script if you have one and their timer. And all they do is sit there for an hour. When the timer goes off, they stop. If it's 8 o'clock, they stop. They don't make any more phone calls. That's it. So they're giving them the deadlines of when they start and when they finish, and they are dedicated, and they're almost like maniacs to this. They'll be so disciplined, 7 to 8, and that's it. They'll tell the kids, hey, I'm on the phone from 7 to 8, don't interrupt me, 8:01, I'm all yours. So those 2 tips. Hope that helps you.
I like what you said, Simon, about the relation you did with the job. In a job, you have deadlines, period. You have to turn in a certain work or certain project a certain day. Well, it's the same thing here. Use it in your own business. Set your deadline. Set a deadline. Okay, by this day, by day after tomorrow, by Wednesday, by Friday, whatever, I have to make contact these amount of people. You set your own deadlines. Yes, in job you have a boss with this extra pressure, but then this is where it comes to discipline upon yourself to meet your own deadlines, guys.
Not only that, but when you're at a job, you have to be productive or you're not going to keep that job very long, right? Like Simon said, they're going to give you some duties and some responsibilities, and you can't just keep shirking them off because you don't want to do it, right? Like we do when, oh, I don't want to pick up the phone, I'm scared about the result, and therefore you don't do it. Well, there's a connection here, because when you're at work, you have no choice, right? You either do what you're supposed to do and you produce, or you're not going to have that job for very long. But unfortunately, most people aren't used to the discipline that Simon referred to in doing it themselves and making themselves do it. And as a result, they don't treat their business like a business. They don't treat it like they have a boss looking over them, watching them, telling them what to do, and making sure that they produce results. That's why oftentimes in home businesses we recommend having an accountability partner. Make sure you have to answer to someone that you're getting your stuff done on a scheduled time, right? You guys have talked about deadlines. Simon talked about a schedule. Definitely want to schedule when you're going to work and for how long. And then you want to treat it like you have a job. Nobody wants another job, don't get me wrong. But you treat it like it's a business, because if you treat it like a business, it will pay you like one. But if you treat it like a hobby, or you do things when you feel like it, it's never going to produce like you want it to. It's never going to give you the income that you started that business for in the first place.
An expensive.
So, yeah, it's definitely an expensive hobby, and it's a stressful one too.
Yeah. But that's a good point you made about the accountability partners. I had one recently, and it wasn't for network marketing, but it was for another business that I have. And we met 3 days a week, and I know I had to get certain things done, like did I do write a blog, or did I read, set my goals, did I read them out, type of thing. And and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we had that meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I knew that the night before I had to get my things done, because at 9 o'clock when that phone rang, I had to tell her what I did, and so I was answering not to her, but also building my business at the same time. So a really good point, Steve.
Well, thank you.
And I like the technique that you spoke about, Simon, with the timer and the phone and the script right there. I mean, no matter what activity you're doing, it's important, at least to me, I can get caught up in multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think I'm effective at multitasking. Who likes to think they're effective at multitasking, right? But the truth is, I end up, parsing out different thoughts in my brain toward different activities, and I don't become efficient at any one thing. So I have found that, like you said, that the timer and the one activity is very. It helps me stay focused. It's a very effective method, a very effective tool to helping me accomplish the tasks that I need to accomplish in order to build my business and be productive.
There's something I read about multitasking recently. I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
It must be true.
And here's the thing, is that humans can never multitask. In fact, computers can't really multitask unless you've got separate CPUs. But when we think that we're multitasking, what we're doing is, let's say we're reading an email, and then the phone rings, or you're on a phone call and you're reading this email. Well, what you're really doing is you're reading the email for a few seconds. Then you focus on the phone call, then you're back to the email, so you kind of split second here and a split second over there. But what happens is that your actual productivity, when you start reading something, let's say the email, it takes you a microsecond or so to actually ramp up to realize what you excuse me tonight, what you're actually reading. So it takes you a little bit of time to ramp up to really understand what you're reading. And then before you switch, you slow back down again. And then you pick up the phone, and before you start talking, you're thinking about it, and you ramp back up to be talking on the phone. And then when you're done, before you switch back, you ramp back down again. So when you go back to reading the email, now you have to get back to, where was I before in this email? What was it talking about? What's the point? What am I looking for? So all this slowing down and starting back up actually takes away from your productivity. And you're right, Cheryl, that we think as humans that we can multitask all day long, and the truth is that we can't. We just have to stop and start back up, and there's this productivity loss that we just waste.
And multitasking for me also goes to spending time with my kids. If I'm here at my computer because they're watching a Disney video, and I can sneak away for a few minutes and do some activities. Well, I know they're going to come into my office and start wanting my attention, and of course I want to give attention to them too. But as you're saying, in that multitasking principle, there's that up and down of trying to pay attention to them, trying again to do some activity on my computer, and it really doesn't work. And for me, what I want in building my business is the freedom to spend the time with my children and give them 100% of my energy and my time. So I like what Chris Record had said, one of the leaders on our team. He also built his business part-time while working a corporate job, a six-figure corporate job. I mean, obviously very lucrative there. But he had a very, very focused intention when he got home after his kids went to bed, and he sat down and said, if I'm going to spend this time away from my family, it is going to be productive. It is not going to be wasted. And I doubt he watched many cat videos during that time, don't you think?
Yeah.
So yeah, that focused intention, and I guess back to a couple of our hangouts ago, where we spoke about Mike Hobbs and his Empower Hour call was, when before you make your to-do list, write your intention out at the top. And then when you write your activities down, they're going to fall in line with what that intention is.
Yeah, you should do that. I actually had that written down, Cheryl, as a note to touch on as well, was not just for an activity, but for the day. Like, what is your intention or your goal for the day? So if you know that you're going to shoot a video, or you're going to write a blog, or you're going to make a certain number of phone calls, or do some Facebook marketing, or whatever it is, what's your intention? Like, why are you doing that? What is your goal? What is your objective? If you make 10 calls, how many appointments do you want to book? How many sales do you want to make? If you shoot a video, how many views do you want it to get? If you write a blog, how many people do you want to read it? That you need to know, and you should write it down, by the way, too. Like, if you don't have a whiteboard, just use a notepad or a piece of paper, write down your intention. But like you guys said, the most important thing you can do, I think, is eliminate all those distractions. So look, email's open, Facebook is open, there's your cell phone's there, your regular phone's there. Some people even have the TV on in the background while they're operating. You have to eliminate all of those distractions. So if you're going to sit down and shoot a video, that should be the only thing you're focused on. Like, clearly we can't multitask, right? So you got to focus on that one task and not just ignore the other ones, but shut them off, make them non-existent. Like, when we come on these hangouts, my email is closed, my Facebook is closed. The only thing I have in front of me is this hangout because I want to have my focused intention, right, Cheryl? So it's the same thing. When you treat your business like a business and you focus on it like it's really important, like your life depends on it, like that goal that you set, and hopefully you have some goals, whether it's spending time with your kids or quitting your job or retiring your spouse, that should be weighing on your mind every day to make sure you're taking those result-producing activities to work towards that goal that you have set. Because if you're doing things based on how you feel that day, or you come home from work at the end of the day, well, I'm tired, I'm not going to work on my business, you're not going to get any closer to your goal. You must focus on those result-producing activities, even if it's for 30 minutes a day, 60 minutes a day. Do what's going to get you a result.
That's an interesting point you bring up, Steve. It's about your intention for the day. And I'm still struggling with this today. And in fact, I have a note on my whiteboard where the top 6 things to do tomorrow, and I forget where I found that. I stole it from somebody, and it's probably a Jim Rohn or Zig Zig, one of these people, or it could have been a Steve Sheiner, who knows. But what this meant is before you go to bed the night before, figure out what your intention is, or even your outcome is another way of thinking about it.
Yep.
What is my outcome for the next day, and what are the top 6 things to do tomorrow? Right, so I had 3 things on my list I had to do today, and I did them before lunchtime. I felt it was empowering, and I made my mind up last night. I said tomorrow I'm going to be doing these 3 things, and they're going to take some time, but I had to get them done, so I did. And when you do that, you feel so empowered that you had a plan the night before. So when you wake up, you're not going, oh, what shall I do today? It's like the first shiny object that comes to mind, like, oh yeah, let's work on this. Let's do some videos or a blog. But if you have a plan from the night before, it makes it so much easier and less stressful.
Yeah.
You make it more productive. You're being productive at this. That's what you just said, Simon. And also that creates momentum. So once you start it, I mean, you won't stop. So every day, set the intentionality is the overall intentionality. You have the activities of what you're going to do every single day, or I mean, day by day. Just 6 goals, 5 goals, 3 goals. You start out, and you start creating momentum, and that's where you start taking the next step.
I mean, it helps if you're organized. You know, like Simon said, you write it down the night before. You know ahead of time what you have to do the next day. Because a lot of times, I think the biggest mistake people make is they sit down in front of their computer or with their phone, or they don't know what to do because they haven't planned it out, they haven't thought it through, and they waste more time being unproductive, thinking about what they should be doing instead of knowing in advance what it is they're going to do with that limited time they have to be productive. So that's a great point, Simon. I think being organized is certainly going to help people stay more focused and be more productive.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to throw a little psycho-cybernetics in here with regard to setting your intention with what you want to accomplish the next day, the night before. If you've read Psycho-Cybernetics, it's just a fantastic book. You'll know what I'm talking about. If you have not read it, I highly recommend you get it. Again, Psycho-Cybernetics. I think it's by Richard Halm. Was that his name?
Maxwell Maltz.
Maxwell Maltz, whatever. Psycho-Cybernetics. Look it up on Amazon. So, yeah, I mean, it talks about the automatic success mechanism that we have inside of our brains. And so setting that intention the night before allows your subconscious to work on that goal and work on that intention and start coming up with creative ideas to help you accomplish that the next day. So when you set that intention the night before, you go to bed, you may dream of some solutions and some, you know, creative activities that you may not have thought of during your waking hours due to this automatic success mechanism inside your brain. So check out Psycho-Cybernetics and look up that automatic success mechanism and use it to your advantage.
And that's so true. I can testify to that. Sometimes, I mean, it's weird. I mean, I like to think I'm a morning person, but I'm not always. But sometimes I've gone to bed and I've asked myself an empowering question, and I wake up the next morning. The first thing on my mind is not what's for breakfast. It's like, oh my goodness, I just had an idea, and it's right at the front of my mind for the first few minutes when I wake up. It's like, where did that come from? It's totally ninja where that comes from. So you're right. So pick up the book.
I actually keep a little notepad by my bed at night in the event that happens in the middle of the night, so I can just fleetingly write down a thought and then look back in the morning and hopefully read my blurry, sleep-ridden handwriting in the morning so I can remember the idea. But, you give your mind a chance to work on a problem or work on a goal while you sleep. Your subconscious mind goes to work on it. Hopefully it doesn't keep you up. You know, if you stress about it too much, hopefully it doesn't keep you up, but you put your mind to work on it, and you wake up in the morning with a better idea of how to approach it.
That's right, and you know, any closing thoughts? Because I know we're coming up on the end of our 30 minutes, and we you know, thank all of our viewers tonight. This was just a fantastic panel, a great subject, very timely. So any last comments regarding income producing activities or results getting activities?
I would just say reduce your distractions and interruptions,
and figure out what result you're after, what activity is going to get that result, and spend your time, the limited time that you have, on that activity.
Write down those targets, write down those activities so you can have a schedule and follow through it.
And avoid multitasking. That's my big one. So again, thank you to all of our viewers tonight. So good to see you here online. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel, 9 p.m. Eastern, with the All In Team live event. And I would encourage you, if you do have any additional questions about what income producing activities are, what results are, or if you're just not getting the results that you want, and you're looking for some further support, get back with the person who invited you to this hangout tonight. And all of us are just happy to connect with every one of you. And we look forward to seeing you next hangout. So, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Good evening. Good night.